Start this. Thank you for being here tonight. This is the first of our series of programs related to our Summer of Ceramics, which actually becomes the Fall of Ceramics. It goes until October. There are two major exhibitions that are opening tonight for viewing. In August at our annual meeting, we'll have a special celebration of both exhibitions. It'll be one of our first live social events on August 19th that evening. I want to first thank and acknowledge John Bullard, Edgar Bullard, who is here with us tonight. John is the donor of over 100 works of ceramics to the LSU Museum of Art, and the collection, a selection of it, about 3/4 of it, is on view in form and fire in the galleries, which a view of is behind me in my photograph. John, thank you so very much. This would not be possible without you and without the artists. Without you two, nothing happens. And I just want to thank you personally because it's a tremendous gift that you are doing here.
Thank you, Dan.
You too.
I want to list some of the other sponsors just to say them out loud, and then I'll do a little housekeeping. Catherine Burns Tremaine and Warren and Becky Gott-Segan are exhibition and catalog partner sponsors, along with John. We also have Robert and Linda Bouger, who are presenting sponsors. And we have supporting sponsors, Debbie De La Husse and Lake Douglas, and Jackie and Brian Schneider. And I know Brian Schneider is on here with us too. I want to thank him and all these sponsors because we can't do these exhibits without them. Additionally, we have a group of annual exhibition sponsors that I won't name at this moment, but if you come to the galleries, you'll see them on the wall and know that the core of our education program and our mission of exhibits and collecting is not possible without these people. I want you to know that there is closed captioning available, and the closed captioning, you can find it in the chat room and you can click on it. You can get closed captioning if you need it. Tonight's talk is going to be in 4 parts. Kurt Weiser, who I'm going to introduce just a second, is going to talk about his work. Then he's going to talk about heroes that people have inspired him across his career. Then he'll talk about the Archie Bray Foundation in Helena, Montana, which actually we're talking to Kurt from just outside Helena, Montana in his studio. And he's also going to talk about some of the resident artists there. Kurt was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan. His first interest really was painting, but he was at the Interlochen Arts Academy, and Marguerite Wildenhain came there and spoke. And we have in our collection 3 Wildenhains through the generosity of Mr. Bullard. He received his BFA at the Kansas City Art Institute, where he studied with Ken Ferguson, got to know John Gill, Andrea Gray, and others there, one of the great centers of ceramic education. He got his MFA at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He left there and went to the Archie Bray Foundation, again in Helena, which is now 70 years old, one of the oldest places to study and work and collaborate on ceramics. And he was the resident director of the Archie Bray for 13 years, from 1977 to 1989. Since 1988, he actually has been teaching ceramics at Arizona State University, where he is now a Regents professor. He teaches in Arizona. Excuse me. He has a studio there in Tempe and also in Helena. Numerous awards, and I just want to give some of them a little air here because they're big. A USA Arts Fellowship, the Osborne Webb National Arts Award, the American Craft Council College of Fellows, the Arizona Commission on the Arts Artist Fellowship, and at least 2 different years a National Endowment for the Arts Artist Fellowship, but they don't even give those anymore, and he was one of the recipients and recognized nationally. He's had solo exhibits at the Fair and Contemporary at Massimoca, North Adams, the Palace Costas Hotel at Paris, France, the Mackenzie Gallery in Washington, D.C., the Lloyd Gallery in Santa Monica. One of his big ones in 2008, there was the Eden Revisited, the ceramic art of Kurt Weiser at the Bellevue Art Museum in Bellevue, Washington. He's in some significant collections. This is a small selection. The Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the Carnegie Museum of Art, Museum of Contemporary Ceramics, the DeYoung Museum, the Mint Museum of Craft and Design, the Gardner Museum in Toronto, the National Museum of History in Taipei, and I will say also now in the LSU Museum of Art. Geez, I apologize. 2 quotes by Kurt that I've spent now, I think 5 or 6 virtual conversations and time with Kurt and feel like I've gotten to know him quite well. Two of his quotes that I think bear on the conversation tonight. While we were talking in preparation for this, he told me that when I first approached him about doing this, he says he has a point of view. He's not a historian, but he's witnessed most of it. That was in the context of American studio ceramics, kind of as a history. He also said, heroes, everyone has got their own. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kurt. He's already started to share his screen and he'll begin the conversation. He and I will, he'll have these 4-section presentations. We'll converse a little bit. And at the end, we will also entertain questions. Please type them into the chat and we'll try to review those and plan on using those towards the end. This conversation is likely to take 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll try to fit in at least some questions towards the end. Again, welcome. Thank you for being here and hope you come and see the exhibition. Kurt, it's all yours.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Who is Mom? Somebody signed in, Mom. Not my mom, I hope.
I don't know. That's fun.
Okay, well, thanks for showing up. I'm in Helena. It's a very hot day. Not as hot as Arizona, but it's hot. This morning I had a couple friends, a couple students of mine come by last night, and they were dying to see Archie Gray Foundation. So I thought, yeah, I'll take you out there. So we went out there, and I could hardly tell where I was. It has changed so much in 2 years. They built so many buildings. Everything is so slick. The studios are beautiful. They have an automatic system to clean the floors, everything. And I used to call it the Clayboy Mansion, but now it's really the Clayboy Mansion. Just luxurious place to work. They have a warehouse that's the size of 2 football fields, full of every kind of material you want. Did I turn this on? No, I didn't. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to start off with what I make or what I've made, and see if I can get this to work. Okay. I'm just curious, how many of you remember this? This thing.
I can hear the national
Look
anthem.
familiar? Yeah, me too. Well, all that does is date.
Yeah.
This is nobody knows what this is. Can't believe it. Okay. Anyways.
Oh, yeah. People do. They're waving.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, hit it for the presentation format.
Right.
There we go. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Well, I'll start. I was a student at the University of Michigan, grad student, and I was dying to go to be. They were looking for somebody to run Archie Gray, and I didn't, of course, know anything about how to run anything except my truck. But I knew I wanted to go there. I'd never been to Montana. Prior to that, I'd been in Oregon and a few other places like that. And being from Michigan, I just love the West. So I was dying to go there. So I applied. And one day, Dave Shainer called me. He said, "You want the job?" I said, "Well, yeah." So he said, "Well, fly out here and we'll have a little talk." So I flew to Missoula and had lunch with him and Rudy Audio. And they were really nice. And they said, "Okay, go ahead and do it." Okay, right here's David Shainer, Ken Ferguson, who was my teacher in Kansas City Art Institute. Whoops. Mike Jensen was just here a few weeks ago. We went fishing. He is the mayor of Whitefish, Montana. Nobody knows about Whitefish, but now they do. Because all this COVID stuff, everybody moved to Whitefish. And you can't buy a dumpy house there for less than $500,000. Anyway, that's me. Nobody used to be in Montana. I did a lot of stuff at the Bray, all kinds of different experiments, tried everything. But I felt that what I was making was sort of formal art, right? I was making some stuff that looked like art on purpose, and I was a little frustrated by it. So When I moved to Arizona to teach down there, first thing I did was build a studio, and it kills everything. And I made it to continue what I was making at the break, but I didn't want to do it. I couldn't do it anymore. So I started doing these, just paint them with black slip, sit in the corner and scratch them with a pin, and just scratch the black slip away. Single fire worked great. And these are things I made after I came back from Thailand. When I moved down there, a buddy of mine, Louis Katz, got a Fulbright to travel around Thailand and make films about the potteries there. So I was so frustrated, I went with him and came back with a whole lot of ideas. I came back understanding that, what you're doing with clay isn't always about clay or glaze or firing or anything. It's about what interests you. You can use clay to do other things or convey other ideas. I'm a slow learner, but I found it very good. So I did these and did them and did them and did them. One thing is really interesting in Arizona, I didn't even go out during the day. It was too weird. But at night, it would cool off and you walk through the desert and it's so beautiful with the moon shining on the cactus and all these evil plants waiting to stab you. And I always filled up sketchbooks. I must have a pile of those, I think they're called moleskin, deep pile of those things, full of ideas. I just draw and don't even think when I do it. I just draw just to pass the time. And I would draw all these fancy teapots or pots. I never made them. So when I got down there, I thought, okay, make them, just do it. And I was embarrassed to do it and apprehensive to do it, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And I learned from that, when you're not sure, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it anyway, because it takes you somewhere else. This is from one of those sketches. Porcelain, clear glaze on it, painted with China paint, and fired to OAT. You have to paint successive layers of the China paint to get the depth right and the color right. And any of you that are curious about China paint, just send me an email. If you got a question, or call me, and I'll tell you what to do. Because I have made every mistake possible. Okay, these are the kind of things I looked at. When I was a college student, I would see these in a museum and I'd run the other way because we were so indoctrinated into Asian ceramics, all that kind of stuff, which of course I loved. I remember a painting student came over to my place one day and said, there's so much ceramics in the world. Why do you just do Asian ceramics? I really didn't have an answer, but it made me think, yeah, I should look around a bit. I did. This is British and French set. But look at the quality you could get with this stuff. And this is old, late 1700s. This was a guy in Thailand who had a bird cage, pretty big bird cage full of canaries. And people would come by, little kids would come by and pay him like a baht, and he'd let a bird go, right? And they liked that. He did it all day long. But he looked like he just got out of jail, right? He's got the cigarette hanging out of his mouth, kind of a rough character. And then I walked by there at night and he had the door open and all of the birds came back into the cage. So he had a good thing going. I just started painting these things.
You started out as a painter, right?
Yeah.
Now you come back to it.
Well, I always loved it, but I was always kind of embarrassed about my lack of skill. But my mother would always take me to art museums and stuff. And, I love that illusion, But as a kid, I was really into like natural history, books on bugs and birds, and snakes, all that stuff, because I lived that way out in the country, and that's pretty much what was around. There's an incredibly good illustrator named Linsenmeyer. Pages that. Unbelievable book. You can still buy it on eBay, on Amazon. It's called Insects of the World. by a man named Linsenmeyer, Linsenmeier. Unbelievable illustrations. And also, my school had a book on Audubon, and I used to check that out once a week. It was, I couldn't believe it. It was so good. And I used to just copy them. Just watercolor, try to copy those things.
Kurt, if you ever make it to
Okay.
LSU, we have the entire set of the elephant folios of the birds at our rare book library.
The biggest ones?
The big ones, yeah, the mammoth volume ones. I mean, he painted right up the river from here, you know, and lived up there.
Well, if they ever disappear, don't come looking for me. These pieces here are probably, foot and a half high. I didn't know what to make. Well, what shape do I paint on, right? So I took the classical Chinese pieces and I just put them on Photoshop and distorted them. Kind of like a classic Chinese ginger jar in front of a funhouse mirror. And that made it kind of a nebulous form so I could paint anything I wanted on there and the form wouldn't interrupt it. It was like building a stage or something. This guy here thinks he's got this bird in his hand, but he's about to get it in the neck on the side. Good dog, bad dog. This was Akio's beagle. And this is a dog, Doberman, we were taking care of. This guy was a handful, more than a handful. He looks devious. He's very obedient. And I've always had this, I've always observed the way dogs interact with me, and then the way the dog interacts with my wife, or other women or other men, you know. With a woman, the dog absolutely adores her. With a man, the dog wants to impress me. That's just my take on it, you know. But I've grown up with dogs. Their personalities are really interesting. This one is a bit odd. You know, I looked at a lot of the Audubon prints. You know, some of the ones, the bird would be in color and the background would be sepia tone. That to me was really interesting. Because it was like two different worlds, right? It's like these are your thoughts and this is reality. And I stole these eyes from some old Italian painting. I can't remember which one. And I've got files and files and files of images. If I don't know what to do, I just get on image search and just start typing and look and look and look and look. And eventually, I used to do it in the library, of course, but this computer's so much easier. And I just collect. And then when I get enough, I go back and go through them and see if I can't find something to entice me to do something. Oops.
These are wonderful, Kurt.
That was
the detail that you put into these and the way the China paint with the crushed glass in it and the kind of reflective and the depth that these have are exceptional.
That outer area, the decorative area, you know how you do that? You take a brush that's about 1 inch wide, you mix up that reddish brown color, you mix up black and you mix up yellow, and you dip one side in the black, one side in the yellow, and then push the bristles up and dip the middle in black. And then just push it on there and give it a twist and start moving it around. And it makes this beautiful, odd, sort of agate surface. This one I did up here one summer. I fell asleep on a lawn chair. I woke up surrounded by a herd of deer. I thought that was pretty. Okay. I forget the titles of these things, but I forget. Anyway, this one was up for auction a while ago, and it was one of my favorites, so I just bought it. God knows I paid a lot more for it than I did when I sold it the first time, but I'm glad to have it. Again, it's very large. Bug collector, that's what it's called. Oops, what did I do here?
Was it time to switch to the hero section?
Well, I don't know, I got a whole different thing up here. Oh, geez, hang on.
That's just the dialogue box you use to get into Zoom.
Okay, so how do I get out of this? It's not looking good.
You don't want to close the tabs. We don't want to lose you.
I
Go
don't
to
wanna
the
do
second
it.
tab up there. There's just 2 tabs up there. Can you go
File?
in your files?
Hit
Somebody
file?
know, Courtney, do you know Max? You can tell him where you can find his presentation. I don't know how to get out of Mac. Which dots? You've done it before.
Ah, shit.
Should just be going to his PowerPoint.
Yeah, he's got different PowerPoints, so a couple different ones.
Hang
Is it-
on, yeah.
You'll find it. I know you had them.
Okay, I can
There
just
you go.
scroll down to where that was.
Okay.
That's what I hate about computers, they just take you on a crazy ride.
Journey.
Okay. This is something that I thought was pretty interesting. Again, you know, they're all about 1.5 feet high, just so you can see what's there. It's easier to paint large than small. I painted this and I painted 2 eyes on there, and it was jarring, but it wasn't pleasant. So I decided to put this big bug in the middle, and all of a sudden it made it believable, you know, because you only see one eye and then the other eye. And what made me laugh was I'd been in the Getty Museum a little bit before this, and they had all this beautiful porcelain, you know, Sèvres porcelain, Meissen porcelain, and everywhere I saw a bug, there was a flaw in the glaze, a pinhole, or it's usually a pinhole. And I thought, geez, that's exactly what I do. Okay. This one, it was so hard to paint that face sideways that I finally took a 2x4, nailed it to the table, and then put a horizontal piece. And then I would slide this thing onto that horizontal 2x4 so the face was the right way. Then I could do it. This one here, I've always loved Henry Rousseau, the painter, Henry Rousseau, French painter. And I read that he had taken all of his animals from the Paris Natural History Museum. So when I was there, I said, I gotta go see this place. So I went and I saw the, you know, the lion, that famous painting of the lion, the sleeping gypsy, right? All
Right.
that stuff. I saw all those animals he used. And I found one he didn't use, which was this animal. I don't know what it is. I took a picture of it and brought it home and used that. So that's my bit of Henry Rousseau, or my connection with Henry Rousseau. This one was called Perfume. I remember that. That bird, I've always loved that bird. It's called the Nighthawk. And in the evening here, if you sit outside, you know, you don't hear anything unless the wind's blowing, except that bird goes way high in the air and makes a long, long dive back down. And he makes this sort of zooming buzz when he does it, collecting bugs, like a vacuum cleaner for bugs.
Kurt, to keep you on time, you're gonna have to go to the next section pretty soon, I think. I don't know if you got your timer going there or
Okay.
not, but
Where are, it doesn't work. Where are we?
it's almost 6
Tell me where
o'clock.
we are. Holy smoke. Okay. All right. Well, here's a couple details. A lot of these backgrounds I'll steal from like Memling or Van Eyck or a Holy card or some very old thing. Come on. You there? There. I drew this woman with a nest on her head late one night and went home thinking, I'm a genius. And I got up the next morning and walked out to her and said, you're an idiot. But I did it anyway. And I realized that a bad idea done well becomes a good idea, and a good idea done badly becomes a bad idea. Oddly enough.
Very true.
Yeah, okay. Then I was walking down the street in New York City. I never would have done it except my son went to college there. And I was going to an antique store. There's all these ancient globes that were absolutely beautiful. So I thought, I want to make globes, you know, not real ones. And everybody thinks these things are about 8 inches high, but they're enormous. I mean, from the bottom here to the top is probably, 25 inches, if not more. And when I made them, I cast them. I had to fabricate all this equipment, cast them and fire them, which I enjoy doing stuff like that. Anyways, that's what I do. I mean, how do you move a big globe like that that's completely painted into a kiln? You can't touch it. I made a metal gizmo that had a hook on the end, and I stuck it at the top and lifted it up, and duck walked out to the kiln and set it on this sort of carriage to hold it up.
And those globes do turn, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yep. I learned something here. I did this one too fast. I was reading about Da Vinci, and he had a word, I can't remember the word, but it meant blurred edges, right? Anytime you paint, you don't want a sharp edge. You got to blur it a little bit. Looks much more real. But for some reason, I fired this before I did that. So the edge of this face is very sharp, and it needed to be blurred a little bit. But nobody else knows what it is. Okay. Other side. Oops. Anyway, went to Archie Gray one time and asked different women to hold a watermelon for me while I took pictures. And they were very gracious. They didn't think I was some sort of pervert or anything. And when I get students, I always look at their hands. And I'm looking for really nice hands, like out of a Memling painting, right? Long, narrow fingers, like the Virgin Mary's hands. Okay, that's it. We went way over time there, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to pick it up on the next section.
Yeah. If you get bored, all you got to do is leave, right? Easy enough.
That's right. We'll be here as long as you want, but everybody's in control of their own selves.
All right. Well, these are just my heroes, and they're pretty obscure. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But pretty much from when I was a college student. And I went out to Los Angeles for something I can't even remember. But there was a show there, a ceramic show of Henry Takamoto, this guy. And I was completely stunned by it. I just loved it. Just loved it. So he certainly was talented. And years later, when Akio Takamori was at the break, I had a show lined up at Garth Clark's gallery in LA. So I shipped all the work there, and I was bashful, but nervous about going there. So I asked Akio, will you come with me? And he did. And we had a good time. But Garth Clark said, what do you want to do in Los Angeles? I said, I want to meet Henry Takamoto. So we got to go to dinner at his house. Great. More of his work here. Now, this is a pretty obscure guy. A lot of people don't know about it. Maybe they do. I don't think so, though. This is Isamu Suzuki. After World War II, a potter named Isamu Suzuki decided that it was time to change everything, right? Most of Japan did, because World War II didn't work out so great for him. So him and a bunch of friends, there's a book all about this. A bunch of friends, this is like the late 40s, early 50s, started this sort of group that just made very sort of modernist ceramics. These are the things they made. And this is his son, Stetson. Really interesting. Oh, by the way, yes, For those of you that know how this goes, it was around Bizet, and this is Bizet clay that they used. Peter Volker's course. When I first went to the Bray, these pots were lying around all over the place, everywhere, broken, cracked sometimes. But the
We have a
bank had
wonderful
whole lot
example.
of them.
We have a wonderful example of Peter Volkers' works in the collection upstairs.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, amazing. For when he did this, it was incredible. One day, a woman came out to the Bray with a pot in a box, and I could tell she was having a hard time, right? And she said, "I just want to see if this pot's worth anything." And I thought, "Oh God, it's something she picked up at the second hand, right?" She pulled it out, and it was a Volkus jar. And I thought, "Oh my God, devil on one shoulder, angel on the other shoulder." But she looked like she was having a tough time. So I said, "You know what? Let me take a picture of it. I'll send it to somebody who's an authority on this stuff, and leave your phone there and I'll come back." So she left, expecting nothing, I suppose. So I called Garth Clark, sent him a picture. He called me up and said, "Wow." I said, "She wants to sell it. What do you want to pay her for it?" And he said, "Well, I'll pay her $8,000. I thought, great. So I called her. I didn't tell her. She came out. I said, "Yeah, would $8,000 be a fair price?" And she looked at me like I was making it up, but I wasn't. So she was very happy. Tony Prieto, somebody I used to look at when I was also in college, somebody Volkus looked at too. And Harrison McIntosh, 60s, he was the guy. And the Natzlers, incredible work. You know,
Want to
it's
point
easy
out-
to pass by some. What?
Point out that that green bowl is in our collection, and it is stunning, and it's the oldest work in the collection from 1956.
Wow.
It's just a
Yeah,
beautiful,
those two-
perfect piece by the Natzlers.
They were good. Shiko Takiezu in high school, I love this stuff. And she came to give a workshop there. I went to high school. And I copied her stuff for years afterwards. My parents' house was full of the Shiko fakes. And these, I mean, these are 45, not over.
And she was so well known for those closed forms.
Yeah, that's her thing. But she was a sweetie. I visited her one time in New Jersey, and she was so nice to me. Richard Shaw, this is in your collection, right?
Yes, it is. Stunning.
Yeah,
The trompe l'oeil,
First time I
the
saw his
foulie
work-
eye.
absolutely. First time I saw his work was at the Kansas City Nelson Atkins Museum. And they had a California ceramic show there. And we all went over there expecting pottery, right? So crazy stuff. And we were stunned by it, like, what? What are we doing? But it was a real eye opener. This was the piece that was at the museum. And it amazed me. You know, it made me think very much of Magritte, but it's like 3D Magritte. Sobachoco. Oops. In Japan, these things were very cheap, like $5 a piece, because they're almost like throwaway stuff. You go to these noodle stands, they give you one of these cups full of miso and something else. And then you take the soba noodles, dunk them in there, and eat them. And of course, you give the cup back. But it was just almost like a throwaway thing. But I saw those and I bought a whole bunch of them and thought, you know, painting on these pots for days and weeks is getting me down. I just want to make a lot of smaller pieces and just play around a little bit. So I started making these, painted with cobalt. And I'll tell you, if you want that Prussian blue, just put cobalt on, you get that sort of purpley blue. But if you want that Japanese kind of Prussian blue, you need one black cobalt, one ochre, and 0.4 chrome of all things. And that'll give you that Prussian blue. Okay, it's the last one. This is a
So
plate.
Kurt, I want to
Yes.
mention those two
Hey.
cups are in the collection also by you.
Okay, yes, they are.
Yeah, you described the one
This is
character as
great.
Elvis.
This is a plate that a woman in Scottsdale gave me. It's like 24 inches across, and it depicts people making pottery, the whole business of making pottery. And every time I go to her house, we always have meetings there, I would go and sit in front of this plate and just adore it, right? And you know, she was an elderly woman. And when she died, I got a phone call from her daughter. And she says, I have something for you from Joan. Can I come by? I said, well, yeah. I thought it was going to be like a thank you card or something. It was just plate. I could not believe it. And I researched it. And apparently, there's only 2 in existence of this particular plate. Okay, lucky me. Okay. Very foundation. I went out there today and I couldn't believe it. It was totally transformed. This is what it looked like in the late 40s.
It's not on the screen yet.
We
Kurt. There
lived
we go.
back here. Yeah.
Okay.
We lived back here in the chicken coop. The hell's that thing? Right here. I worked in this building, and all of this here belonged to the Medicine Hat Brick and Tile Company up in Alberta. So really, when I was there, the Bray was just this very small plot right here. And to make a very long story short, I was able to convince the man that owned it to sell it to us. He didn't want to, but the mines in Butte went belly up. The economy in Montana was terrible. I mean, there were people hunting deer downtown Helena for stuff to eat, for God's sakes. So he called me up and said, okay, let's talk. So we came down. He told me to have it appraised, the whole brickyard, everything you see here. And they appraised it for $50,000, which shocked him, but delighted me. Anyway, we negotiated with him and got it for $75,000. All of this. It was like, it was like the Louisiana Purchase. All of a sudden, we had all that space, thousands and thousands of bricks, hard brick, fire brick, everything. So it was, I used to fantasize about it, but it actually happened. Okay, here's Archie Bray. Here's Branson Stevenson, Pete Malloy. Pete Malloy was a district judge in Helena. Archie Bray ran the brickyard. And Branson Stevenson worked for an oil company. He's the guy that invented the wax that they used to put on paper milk cartons. And here he is demonstrating with his breakthrough idea of putting a little cone thing there and pouring glaze on it. So the whole thing got done right. Okay. Let's see. You just get home? Okay. Let's see, where am I? There's Archie Bray shoveling coal in the kiln. I got locked out today, you know that. Yeah. Okay. They built this building based on Bernard Leach's drawing of an ideal pottery. And they built it just out of scrap brick out of the brickyard because, well, okay, Pete Malloy and Archie Bray wanted to do this because Pete Malloy came out to see Archie and was making copies of Tang Dynasty horses. Why, I don't know. But he wanted a place to fire them. So Archie said, yeah, fire them in the big kilns. And they got to talking and they decided to open this pottery up. And they were lucky enough that the first 2 people they had come up there and work in it were Pete Vokus and Rudy Adeo. They were both students down in Bozeman right after the war. You know, after the war, all these GIs came home and they had a GI Bill and they could study whatever they wanted to. And some of them said, no, I just want to make pots or paint or be an artist. And the government paid for it. So that really charged up that whole art atmosphere of the country. So Yetsu Yanagi wrote the book, The Unknown Craftsman. Very Japanese, interesting book. I mean, this was our Bible in college. The Unknown Craftsman, amazing book. Bernard Leach, he wrote a Potter's book from England. Rudy Audio from Missoula. Well, these two were both from Bozeman, actually, right out of college. And Shoji Hana from Japan. A lot of you know these people, I'm sure, or know who they are. Here's Rudy working at night. Archibald coming by to check out what's going on. Hamada throwing on the wheel, sitting up on top of it, while Locust kicks it. Building a kiln out back. Locust and Stevenson. This is relatively contemporary. Robert Harrison, who lives about a quarter mile east of here, built this whole pyramid out of sewer tile, just stacked up, and reinforced with metal banding. Absolutely beautiful. And he built this thing here called a Potter's Shrine. That's just beautiful. Inside of that, there's the pyramid with Mount Helena behind it. Here's the new buildings. This is a mural by a woman named Suwani Nighthawk that came from Thailand. But how do I do that? Okay. In here is like a lounge, big kitchen, tables, ping pong tables, everything. Really quite nice. And then you go this way and you come to this doorway here, and it leads into all the new studios. Nathan Craven did this. These were all extruded pieces that he put into this opening in the wall. Really makes for an interesting object. Suwani Nate Wong from Thailand. I saw her in what's that town way north Alberta? Calgary, what's north? Edmonton. Edmonton. I was there one summer for something, and I see a sign that says Thai Trade Fair. So I go in, and she's sitting there with her work and her family. And I say, she's always spoke English. So I said, if you ever come to Helena, come see us. We got interesting pottery going. So I gave her the brochure and she left. Forgot all about it. A couple of days later, well, a week later, I got a phone call from a guy out at the airport. He says, there's a woman here looking for you. And I think she's Navajo. Because she had that very similar sort of clothes. And I thought, who could this be? And I drove out there and it was her. And she says, has been a part of the place ever since, one way or another. These are the new studios as you go in. All these studios here and here and here and here. And everybody hoses out their space. And it all flows here and everything stays very clean. I learned that from working in a pig bar. That's what they do. It works very well. Steve Lee, he's the current director. This is his studio. Everybody they all have very generous studio setups. One of the kiln rooms, there's kilns all over this place. This is the one closest to the residence facility. All brand new equipment. This is just one bank of kilns. There's a whole other one over here. And then the education building, which they just built, there must be 10 more kilns and a big Blau kiln. Unbelievable. This is where we used to work in the summer. It's just an old warehouse, but a beautiful, I like it. It's warm. The color of this wood is very nice. Adam Field. So many people came to work at the Bray over the last 70 years. Loved it here, didn't want to leave, and stayed. Adam Field is one of them. I didn't know Adam Field, but I was acquainted with his videos on YouTube and loved him. I thought, God, this guy's really interesting. And when I went to the Bray one time, I'm walking by and he walks by. I thought, geez, he looks familiar. It turned out to be him. Okay. Just another view from the sort of lounge area. All these stacks connected to all these beehive kilns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you go out there, you can wander around the place. This is when we bought the brickyard. We decided to use this building, which is, wide, a third again as wide as this, but 250 yards long. Unbelievably huge building. And a guy named Louis Katz and Chip Clausen cobbled together all equipment that was around. At a pellet mill, they reconditioned it to clay for the clay business. Clay business used to support the pottery, the whole thing. Now it's mostly grants, which makes me nervous, but none of my business. They have summer shows in this one warehouse. And they always have listed the people that are involved and their work. Who said this looks like a Morandi painting?
Yeah, when I saw it, when you showed it, it looks so much like a Morandi. It's beautiful.
Sure.
What a nice installation.
Yeah. And when you walk in, you see, a little biography of everybody there. And the amazing thing is these summer shows attract an insane amount of people. Really in hell of Montana. So many people come out. And on the 50th anniversary, we had a huge banquet downtown in the Civic Center. They really dolled it up. It was beautiful. And they had a big auction, big Vocus piece here for sale. This is just Louis walking around. I had to put that in. And the beehive kilns were all repaired, fixed up, put back together again by this group of industrial archaeologists from Pennsylvania. And a lot of the buildings are built out of brick that nobody would buy. They have this black coring and everything in it. But I think these things are beautiful, especially when it rains and they're wet. Okay, here's Akio Takamori. Everybody knows who he is. He was there for 2 years when I was there. And then he wasn't sure where to go. I said, why don't you stay another 4 years? So he just stayed. And it was great having him around. What an interesting guy. We became really good friends. Carrie Esser runs the strategy.
I want to mention, we have 2 really beautiful Akio pieces that are coming into the collection, and an additional significantly large one that was done when he was here as a visiting artist back in the mid 1990s.
Yeah, I have a house full of his work. Gary Esser runs the ceramic program at Kansas City Art Institute. Dick Notkin, who I'll show you some of his work in a minute. I worked right next to him, another room, and he always had a little TV on, and he'd watch the news and scream and yell, scream at everybody. Took the news so seriously. Still does. Andrea Gill, John Gill, have both taught at Alfred since, well, I'm not gonna say day one, but 30 years anyway, not more. Carol Rohrbach took over when I left. Then Josh DeWeese. Josh looks like he's about 12 here. Might have been. Alan
A
Winkler.
beautiful basket by
amazing.
him in the collection.
Yeah, that's the handle with a basket, right?
Yeah.
Zimmerman, Christy, my wife, Dave Nelson. Clearly a long time ago. David Shainer, whose work I always loved. He lives up in Big Fork, and I drive up there all the time to visit. He's sort of like the guru, right? This looks like the piece of your collection, Dan. The one with the on top?
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
Very similar.
That's right.
I think it may be the one.
Could be.
Okay.
He hasn't done the brushwork on top yet.
I got a biscuit first. And that was done with wax. He would do the brushwork with wax
Mhm.
and then band over it with dilute iron oxide. I watched very closely. I copied him a lot.
Such a
Ken
master.
Ferguson, you know what they say, like you got him inside the tent and doing something inside the tent. He was intense. Anybody here? Don't care for, but we'll talk about it later. Rudy Audio, who's an absolute sweetheart. Great guy. Okay. That's a forest fire sunset. Oh, God, I did it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Now residents. All the people I worked with during the 13 or whatever years we were there. You know, an interesting thing is, a lot of all of us actually, at least the guys that ran the place, all had wives, right? And they did a lot. They took care of a lot. And years ago, Ed Shainer was writing something about the wives of the male potters that were there. And I said to her, good God, you helped Dave so much. Christy helped me so much. And you guys never got any credit for it. You should. And I don't know what she ever did with that, but I think they should get credit because they were incredibly helpful and put up with a tremendous amount of crap. Okay, Akio Takamori, amazing guy. We were such good friends. I'd go to Seattle from here in the summer, and Akio and I would cruise the Asian antique stores in Seattle and just have a great time. We compete with each other over who could buy the best stuff, Sometimes I won, sometimes he won. Some of his work. This is very big. This is from a Velázquez painting. He would take figures out of famous paintings and build them. This is envelope piece. And what delighted me was the way he would, when he made these things, he would just indent the eyes a little bit, but it was raw clay. Push the nose out just a little bit in the mouth, and biscuit. And then he'd go back and delineate all these areas just with a brush. And it just made them come alive, just pop right out. I love these cheeks. It's just kind of washy underglaze. Beautiful things. And there's another similar piece that I showed you. I mean, they're not small, they're big. Ken Ferguson had a whole portfolio full of photographs that he took of children in Japan when he was in the Korean War. And he gave it to Akio, and Akio really identified with it because that's what people looked like when he was a kid. So all those people were part of those photographs Ken Ferguson gave him. It was really a prolific, okay, wait a minute. Dave Shainer. After he left the Bray, he lived up in Big Fork, Montana, right at the top of Flathead Lake. Absolutely beautiful. Okay.
You're going backwards.
Okay. Dave Shainer. Incredible potter. I remember seeing his work when I was a student at Kansas City Art Institute, and Ferguson would show us. And I just really connected with it. I thought, wow, this guy's good. Shainer red.
There's our
Yeah, that looks
covered
very
box
much like-
there.
Yeah, all right.
Here's what-
Hold on. Yeah, I think that's it.
There it is. That's ours. I think you're right. That picture, I think that could be our piece. That's exciting. You need to send me that photograph.
I will. Arnie Zimmerman. Made the oddest things, really oddly outrageous things. He was here for a summer. We went to a bar one night and there was a huge fight. And we had to tip our table outside and hide behind it, while bottles were flying everywhere. He thought that was great. These big things, he's pretty much well known for these large outdoor pieces.
I saw them once in a big installation at the Everson Museum. They had them in the plaza.
Yeah. Yeah. Richard Knockin, amazing stuff. The detail is unbelievable on these things. He's so meticulous. I think he should have been a brain surgeon. He would have been really good at it.
Kurt, we're coming into an hour here, so I don't know how many more you have.
Yeah, well, we're on to the end here. Here's June Kaneko. Up here. Amazing. Or his Tom Fardell from Michigan. Wild things. These are, 3-4 feet tall. Hang on the wall. Eva Kwong, really a prolific and talented woman. Made such good stuff consistently for year after year after year. She's still doing it. And her late husband, Kirk Mangus, crazy guy. He was cutting a tree down with a chainsaw, not watching what he was doing. And the tree fell and almost hit me on top of the head. It was not a small tree. We were cutting trees to build a shed to cover the wood for the wood kiln. Matt Metz, always loved his stuff.
The covered box in the upper left is from our collection.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Sarah Diego, who's the potter of Helena. You can hardly go to anybody's house in Helena and not see her work. She has been here for 40 years. Sam Chung, I teach with him. I love him. He's a great guy. Talented, easygoing, incredible sense of humor. He could have been on Saturday Night Live and made a fortune. But these things are just flawless, beautiful things. This one we collaborated on. He made it. I painted it. The cloud jars, he called them. Did this for the Archie Gray auction. So casserole of his, your collection too. Disgusting. Powerhouse. You see the size of these things, and they're that big, most of them. And he fires them a big wood kiln back in, I don't know, New Bedford, Massachusetts, or one of those old whaling towns. What he does, it's interesting to me, is he'll put these pots in the kiln, and he'll put like cone 6 glazes on them, layer them up, and then fire them to cone 12. So they just flow like crazy. And they look very much like absolutely beautiful landscapes. Yeah, like this. Yeah, it takes 3 guys to carry this thing. Okay, Bob Archibald, potter from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Ran into him by coincidence in Winnipeg, and I just loved his pots. Really beautiful pottery, simple, direct. He made these things and he made bronze lids for all of them. David Regan lives up in Kalispell, Montana. He was there at the Brave, 83 something. Amazing stuff. All just black slips scratched away. Chris Staley. Lives about east of here. No, he used to. He still got a house up there, but he never comes out here. Yeah, excuse me a minute. Okay, Rick Hensley. Went to college with him. Really good powder. Judith Solomon, just retired. She taught at Cleveland Art Institute forever, a long, long time. Montecito, Floyd, Virginia. Andy Martin, incredible guy at slipcasting. If you want to learn a lot about slipcasting, get his book. He wrote a book that is so good. And when he was at the Bray, I wanted to make bowls, and he showed me a lot of things, taught me a lot. Now he lives in Holland. Why, I couldn't say, but I think a girl brought him. Bobby Silverman, New York City.
He also taught at LSU.
You're right, he did. Yep. Did you ever hear that Randy Newman song about LSU? Probably did. Josh DeWeese, you have this, right?
Yes, indeed.
This pretty much sums Josh up. He's always in a good mood. And Ferguson, my teacher, one of them.
And
Some of
that's
his
our
work.
piece in our collection too.
Oh, really? Which one?
The one you just had, the big slump jar.
Oh, yeah. Sana Musasama from New York. Was here, I don't know, 80, 85 or so. Andrea Gill. John
There's
Gill.
our piece.
It's this one, isn't it?
No. Back to Andrea. It was the big tall vase is ours. We don't, none of
Oh,
those
yeah.
are in that collection.
Front and center,
We
right?
have a John Gill, but. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah, John
there
is-
over my shoulder.
Sweet character. What? Jason Walker. I'm sure you're all familiar with his stuff too. Same technique, black slip, scratch it off. Down to the white clay. Louis Katz, the guy I toured Thailand with, he spoke absolutely flawless Thai. And we stopped for gas, and these little girls that would pour gas in your car would be jabbering about us, right? Louis knew exactly what they were saying. And he'd reply to them, and they'd start laughing and run away. Gail Bush, Altair Sig, Chris Anneman. She's makes these crazy sort of French decadent court pieces. Alan Winkler, Kansas City, still lives there. Steve Lee, who runs the Bray now. Bill Briard, you have this one, right? In the collection?
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. Robert Harrison, showed you this earlier, this pyramid piece up here. He also built this piece at one end of the Bray.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's see. What do I got?
Well, Kurt, why don't we go back to full screen and let people, I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. There's at least one real interesting observation that one of the photos you had of Andrew Martin was taken during his workshop at LSU. And that we also have some Andrew Martin slipcase work featured in the Boneyard show. And that's put up there by Courtney Taylor, a wonderful ceramic partner here at LSU. Is there anybody you could feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand kind of physically, and just ask a question if you have any for Kurt about any subject he's covered or something else?
You can be insulting as you would like, whatever you want to say.
I see
Kurt, I
Amina
will just say,
has her hand
ahead.
raised.
Yeah, You mentioned something at the beginning when you were talking about your own work, where you said you put.
Did I say that?
I might
Yes,
have
you were
heard
talking
wrong.
You just said-
Kurt, I mentioned it, you had told me about it, how you treat the China paint to make it a big gloss.
You just fire it a little hotter and it glosses up a bit. But all China paint is that it's a glaze essentially. They formulate a glass that's a certain color, right? They put it in a big crucible, they fire it till it melts, they pour it out in that cold water and it cracks up into little pieces. Then they grind it up into a powder and you mix that with oil and paint it on. It's like instant coffee, right? It's already been melted and vitrified. It's reground so that what you see is what you get. If you have red China paint, it's already been fired. It's just ground up, so you paint it and it's red. You know,
So Kurt, you have a whole palette of colors?
of course.
Thank you.
Let's see, what do we got here? See, wow.
Thanks, Amina, for asking the question.
Yeah.
Because the
You're-
China paint pieces of yours are amazing, I think, and they're dreamlike and surreal in the distortions that you do on them and these incredible shapes you make. The shapes now, do you do the original version of those on a wheel to make them, and then you make a mold and a cast from that to create molds, or how do you build the shapes of the teapots or the
Well,
globes?
when I began, I did that. But what I do now is design the on photo, right? Get the shape right, and then I take account on how much the clay shrinks, and then I'll print out that shape on a printer, and I'll trace it on a piece of plywood, and I'll cut that out with a jigsaw. And then I'll take that piece of plywood, prop it up with bricks, put a slab on it, and push down. So I have one half of the form, right? Then I'll turn that form over, do it again, and then I'll join those two together. And then I take some really sloppy clay, like peanut butter, and I smear the whole thing over and over again. So I get about another ½ inch of stuff. Now let that get another hard, and I'll scrape it with a Sureform tool till I get exactly the shape I want. And if I wanted to bulge out a little more here, I will just slap on a red shape. Yeah.
How big is the hollow space inside? I mean, is it like a functioning teapot?
You mean the real ones? The finished ones?
Yeah, the finished
Of
work.
course.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just do that for what I just explained. I only do that to make the piece for the mold. You know, if anybody's curious to see how I make all those molds, I have it here if you want to see it. I don't mind showing you. But I don't want to bore you or take up your time if you don't want to. So let me know.
Are there any other questions for Kurt about either the Archie Bray? I mean, the Archie Bray has been around for 70 years, was a brick factory, if you will, and then turned into this incredible residency. And quite honestly, it's a non-degree granting institution. And Alfred University is a degree granting institution. They're probably two of the best places in America to study ceramics. I do want to mention that our own School of Art has one of the top 10 ceramic institutions for academic study in ceramics. And I see Andy Shaw and Mikey Walsh on here, who are two of our faculty who do incredible work. Teresa Knowles, who teaches at the campus school. It's an amazing amount of work, and great ceramic artists come out of our program too, and have taught here. We're really fortunate. And Frank, when you come to see the Form and Fire exhibition, we're not showing it tonight, but the Boneyard exhibition shows bisque fire demonstration pieces done over a number of years by a large variety of a number of artists. Really know Teresa is one of the ones who'll be coming in at some point to work. And August 1st, we're actually bringing in our first, I think it's Sunday afternoon, August 1st, right, Courtney, for our first demonstration in the gallery?
Yes, Lisa Orr will be here.
And Lisa has been here as a demonstrating artist in the studios with ceramics, and we have some pieces in the Bits collection. Plus, we have a wonderful finished large bowl, a rabbit bowl that she made that's in our collection as a gift from John. We're fortunate to have that also.
She has the most beautiful glazes. Every time I see her stuff, I'm astounded at those glazes. Rich, beautiful colors. Like Tang Dynasty almost, you know, sort of flowing color. It's great.
Stunning work.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, do you have your hand raised, Brian? I thought I saw it. Oh, okay. If you want a question, just unmute. Well, Kurt, I want to thank you for all your time and preparation for this, just assembling all those images, the historic images. It's wonderful to hear about your heroes, and I imagine everybody on this call has their own heroes in whatever field. You know, sometimes you might be an artist, but it could be a literary talent or a musician. It can be an artist in your field that you inspire. And frankly, I'm inspired by the artists we get to encounter. And Kurt, I'm very inspired by you and your work. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and hearing this presentation tonight.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
With that, again, thank you, sponsors. Please come see the exhibitions. They're officially open, and there's a lot to see. It is the kind of project that is worth many viewings just to spend time with the work. And we will have a series of talks, some live, like Lisa Orr coming up on August 1st. We will have her live in our galleries. So I hope that. One person also said to you, great hearing about the Bray, your imagery and your sculptural processes. Thank you all for making us available online. Thank you so much. So much for a most interesting talk. So thank you all for being here tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening. And please come to the museum, and then, you know, write us back and tell us what you think about the projects, and help inform us, and know that we're building a ceramics collection. So, you know, if you're a donor and you collect, think about us.
Thank you.
And again, thank you to John Bullard, because he has made this all possible. And it's a huge change for us, from our Newcomb collection to this, from arts and crafts to this 20th century and into the 21st century of ceramics.
Okay, I want to add,
Have a good night.
anybody that has a technical question or something, send me an email or call me on the phone. I'll do what I can do. I made every mistake.
Reach out to us and we can connect you.
I made almost every mistake. So that's what I tell the students, you know. The good thing about being in school is you don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. Watch everybody else make mistakes and learn from that. It's really true. Well, okay.
No,
That was fun.
Kurt, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So
Take care, everybody.